Let's make the best falafel sandwich that you'll ever have. This was absolutely incredible. This is one of the most important parts of this whole recipe. You want to buy dried chickpeas and soak them overnight. I'm literally begging you to not use canned chickpeas. To ensure that they're ready to use, they should look puffed up and hydrated. Also, this water is no good, dump it out. Start off by adding the chickpeas in a food processor. To this, we're gonna add in some white onion. Heartburn is essential, but don't go overboard. To this, we're gonna add some baking powder, a very generous amount of salt. For our essential spices, we need cumin, which helps with the bloating. No, seriously, that was actually not a joke. To almost any chickpea recipe overseas, it's always paired with cumin. To this, we add a generous amount of coriander. Optionally, add turmeric for some nice color. And for a nice kick, my aunt's recipe calls for some chili powder. To make this perfect, we need some cornstarch, a splash of water to keep everything moving, and finally, a generous handful of cilantro. Now, all of this gets beautifully pulsed. As I blend this all up, I like to press down all those ingredients to make sure everything gets nice and incorporated, and then just back into turning this into smithereens. The baking powder sort of helps the chickpea kind of rise and come to life. It feels as if the cornstarch just keeps everything nice and together. This is the consistency you're going for. It's not too wet, but it's definitely not grainy and dry. At the same time, it holds nice and perfect together, and this is just exactly what you want to be looking for. Always start off with a tiny bit of water, and if it's too wet, add a little bit more cornstarch. This is perfection if I say so myself. And into a large bowl we go. Here's a little bit more texture action because I really want you to get this part right. Okay, we have to shape the falafel before they go into the fryer. I'm gonna be using literally a special tool that is made to shape falafel, but I know 95% of you don't have this little gadget. So what you could easily do is just use an ice cream scooper or 2 spoons. This tool is actually kind of cool. I'm gonna pull back the lever system, introduce the falafel mixture just like this, and then we drop them into oil set at 350. Look how beautiful they come out. When they're golden like me, allow them to rest on a rack. They only take a couple minutes to cook, so if it takes you a little bit of time to drop each one in, take them out in the order that you put them. Let's see if we pass the test. Oh, they hold perfectly together and they're nice and moist, and they're just beautifully crispy on the outside. Wow, seriously, that is fantastic. Always fry 1 or 2 in the beginning to make sure your batch is nice and perfect. If it needs some salt, add it. If it's too watery, add some cornstarch. And that will always just ensure that you have the perfect product. Now, I know so many of you are thinking, can you air fry these? So I am not going to change anything with the mixture, and I'm just gonna toss 2 in the air fryer, and I'll report back to see if it actually works. I'm gonna drop a couple in the air fryer basket, light spray of oil, and into the air fryer at the max setting. Okay, they took about 6 minutes flipping midway through. The texture is not too bad. It kind of shrunk a little bit, but they seem to be nice and moist. The final verdict, now bismillah. Okay, I'll give it a 7 or 8 out of 10 for air fried. It's actually pretty good. I just wish it was a little bit more fluffy, but the flavors and moistness is pretty good. The most important condiment for this sandwich is gonna be our tahini sauce. This is whole milk yogurt, and this is my favorite brand. We're gonna add tahini, which is sesame paste. I like to microplane a tiny bit of heartburn, add a serious amount of lemon juice, hefty pinch of salt, and then mix. If it's too thick, add a splash of water, because we do want it to be a sauce-like consistency. If I'm being honest, falafel are actually not that easy to make. In Syria, they are one of the cheapest street foods that you could get, but I still remember there's just select areas we used to get them from. So that's why I really want you to nail down the texture, because it will differentiate a good and a bad sandwich. To assemble, I like to start with a thin warm pita. We're gonna grab our falafel, and I kind of just like to press them down into the sandwich. A couple Middle Eastern pickles. Usually do parsley, but I like cilantro. Pickled turnips are a game changer. Some shatta, tomatoes because we're healthy. And we finish with a couple mint leaves. And then we get generous with our tarator. I'm just gonna take some parchment and just wrap it up. And as always, now bismillah. That is ridiculous. I'm telling you, every single bite is made with love.